News and information 570 KLIF.
The following program is furnished by K1 International LLC and is responsible for its content. Now, from the 5th floor Cumulus Studios in downtown Dallas, it's time for Inside Real Estate. Here's your host, Michael Kruizinga.
Good morning, Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Welcome to Inside Real Estate. We got an Inside Real Estate and news special for you today. You know, we're here every Sunday, 8 to 9 a.m., and occasionally at other times, so tune in for us. Hey, InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. You can connect with us and all of our partners of the show there. Hey, if you are actively looking for real estate out there, of course, you want to probably catch our app. It's the DFW Metroplex Real Estate app that's available on Android as well as Apple. So if you are actively looking out there, I would highly recommend downloading that to your phone, and that'll take care of you. Of course, we're here for all of you folks out there that need us in real estate, buying and selling, so we hope you connect to us. Got a big show here for you today. We're going to be talking with Terry Wagner over at Supreme Lending Rockwall. So, hey, you got mortgage questions, refinance, Texas cash out questions, or if you're just a first-time buyer out there thinking about buying, or even if you've bought maybe 5 or 10 years ago, you're about to sell and buy, hey, things have changed, totally different market from back then, and you've got some questions for Terry, feel free to give us a shout. 888-787-KLIF, 888-787-KLIF, and you can connect with us and chat here on air. Later in the show, we're going to be talking to Perry Cockrell, our resident expert in all things law. He's got some updates for us. As you know, he provides legal analysis of the latest and greatest out there, and there's some Supreme Court cases that he's going to kind of give us some updates on, so we're going to be looking forward to that a little bit later in the show. Hey, by the way, you know, last week I was listening to the replay of the show last week, and I don't even know where I got last week's date. I said it was some date, and it was like way off. It was last week, I think it was, what was it, May 15th, I think, last Sunday, and I said it was like May 21st or something. So for all of you folks out there that I totally screwed up last Sunday and you were like, what day is it? My apologies. I had that totally wrong. I was just sleepwalking, I guess, last Sunday morning. Hey, you know what we haven't done in a while is this day in history. So why don't we give you that? All right, folks. Let's go back in time. May 22nd. Let me make sure I got the date right. Yes, it is May 22nd. Let's go back in time, folks. Hey, 334 BC, Alexander the Great defeated Darius III of Persia. Interesting story there. Go way back in time on that one. You know, Alexander the Great, his father, Philip II, was assassinated, and then so he went on to take out Darius III. It's rumored in a number of battles that Darius III turned his chariot and ran a number of times. But interesting about Darius III, the previous two kings had been assassinated by a very highly appointed aide, and he poisoned the previous two kings, and he attempted to do that with Darius III as well. However, Darius III was a little bit smarter, and he actually made this highly appointed aide drink the poison himself. So take that. But good thing Darius lost in the end. So there you go. There's a little back in time. Hey, how about 1370? The Jews were expelled and massacred as well in Brussels. That was back in 1370. Speaking of Brussels, by the way, you remember the band Eagles of Death Metal that were playing during the attack last year? Jesse Hughes, the front man, has been very vocal in lots of interviews out there, putting his views out there, and rightly so. He lost a crew member as well during that attack. And by the way, they are playing live tonight at House of Blues, right around the corner. And so if you're not familiar with their music, you think that maybe they're just a death metal band. Well, they're actually not. They do have some pretty solid heavy rock, but when they formed the band back in the 90s, they said, what would it be like to, have a band that, sang a mix of songs all the way between the Eagles and death metal? And they said, well, there's the name of the band, Eagles of Death Metal. So if you've never heard them, well, they actually got a lot of great music, and it's not just heavy metal music. It's a real cross of, just typical pop and rock ballads and some great rock as well. So if you never heard those guys, you might want to check them out, the Eagles of Death Metal. That was just a little side note there. Continuing on with this day in history, 1455, opening battle in England's 30-year War of Roses. 1849, Abraham Lincoln receives a patent, and he's the only U.S. president to have a patent on anything. It was a device that lifts a boat over shoals and obstructions. I didn't know that myself. 1892, the toothpaste tube was invented. Well, thank you. And that was courtesy of Dr. Washington Sheffield. Much appreciated. We still use that old toothpaste tube today. 1906, Wright brothers patent the aeroplane. What else we got? 1960, there was a big-time tsunami. Basically everything between the 37th and 44th parallels. Coastal towns were hit. And of course, the big one hit Hilo. Over in Hawaii at 1:04 a.m. That was 1960. 1961. Hey, Space Needle, first restaurant, Top of the Needle in Seattle opens. Of course, there's many restaurants revolving around many towers around the globe. First one here in the U.S., 1961. Hey, 1967, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood debuted on PBS. So friends and neighbors out there. 73, Nixon confessed to Watergate cover-up. 94, Toronto NBA franchise, the Raptors. And, of course, they are the only NBA team in Canada. Vancouver, as you remember, came down south some time ago. 98, Lewinsky scandal. And a federal judge ruled that U.S. Secret Service agents can be compelled to testify before a grand jury concerning that scandal involving President Bill Clinton. Now, of course, whether or not they will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help them God, is a different story. Anybody telling the truth when it comes to the Clintons, well, that's maybe not going to happen. 2011, EF5 tornado struck the city of Joplin, Missouri. Killed a lot of folks, about 160 or so. Recent history, single deadliest U.S. tornado, really since they started keeping records back in 1950. So, folks, there you go. That's this day in history all the way back in time. Hey, what else is going on? Let's maybe do a few headlines, and we generally do real estate headlines related, but let's run down what else is going on in the area. What to start with? Well, I guess we'll start with one little real estate one. Did you see this story? Subdivision over in Carrollton. Everybody was complaining in the subdivision over in Carrollton because of the stink of the landfill that's nearby. And the landfill's like right across the street. So, for all you rocket scientists out there, I mean, if you don't want to smell the stench of a landfill, maybe don't buy a house in a subdivision right nearby one. Just a thought. As a real estate agent, I always talk to our clients when we're out looking at homes. Hey, there's an airport, small airport over here. Hey, there's a railroad track over here. And I generally just stay away from the landfills altogether. For example, the really nice subdivision Viridian over in North Arlington. Well, it just happens to be east of that landfill that's up there in North Arlington. And, of course, prevailing winds are generally west in the southwest. And so I would not be east of a landfill, just me personally, or anywhere close if at all possible. So those of you folks over there in Carrollton complaining about that, well, did you know it was there when, the thing's been there forever, you knew. I don't know what you're thinking. What else is going on? Target stock has been down. The big thing to talk about these days is we're talking about bathrooms and transgender and all that stuff. Well, Target, took a big stand on it, and so their stock has actually been down over the last month or so, and a lot of folks have been talking about boycotting Target because of their new policy, and so that was pretty interesting. Hey, Mark Cuban was going to be on Meet the Press today. Actually, they released a little bit of the tape earlier this week, and honestly, I thought this was kind of a joke. I was like, this has got to be a meme or something. And no, it's legit. He's Meet the Press interview. They're going to air most of it today. They aired some of it earlier in the week, and asked about, if Hillary asked him, would he be VP, he said, yeah, he would consider it. But it was almost a funny, serious conversation. He's like, oh, she'd have to come more center if I was to be on the ticket and be VP. And I mean, are we joking? Are we literally joking here? I mean, who even came up with this idea? I just, that's why I thought it had to be some kind of meme. It had to be a joke, had to be fake. And, who would go to Mark Cuban as a VP? Don't get me wrong, love him, great job with the Mavericks, but hello, are we out of our minds at this point? But of course, I guess they're just doing anything here in Texas to try to help Hillary numbers, especially now that Cruz is out on the Republican side. And so that was pretty interesting. Well, folks, we're going to take a short break, then we're going to come on back. Before we get into mortgage talk, we're going to talk maybe a little bit about this Rangers Stadium over in Arlington. So, folks, Inside Real Estate, hey, come on back in a few.
If you use a free credit monitoring service, you may think it will also protect your identity. But what you may not realize is that some free credit monitoring services feel free to sell your personal information. And that's a big price to pay. At LifeLock, we would never, ever sell your personal information. Instead, we help to protect you from identity theft by using proprietary technology to detect and alert you to a wide range of potential threats. And in the event that we discover a problem, we have a team of US-based specialists who will work to resolve it. Of course, no one can prevent all identity theft or monitor all transactions at all businesses, but LifeLock helps to protect you without selling your information. Remember, free credit monitoring can cost you your personal information. LifeLock memberships start at just $9.99 a month plus applicable taxes. And now you can get 10% off a LifeLock membership. Go to LifeLock.com and enter promo code NEWS. LifeLock.
With over 3.5 million square feet and 5 DFW locations, Ideal Floors has you covered for all your flooring needs. Whether you're looking for carpet, tile, laminate, wood, or vinyl plank, Ideal Floors has you covered. And with their price match guarantee and their 100% satisfaction guarantee, they are the absolute best in DFW for all your flooring needs. Call Kevin Hamus, the owner of Ideal Floors, at 214-789-0422 or go to idealfloors.com for all your flooring needs.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we are back. It's Inside Real Estate. Mike Kruizinga. We are back. It's an Inside Real Estate and News special today. Hey, couple more things on some headlines, and then we're going to get into some mortgage talk with Miss Terry Wagner. I thought this little bit of news, let's talk about social media for a second. This was out on social media, and I saw this, and I was like, all right, let's mention this. This is interesting. There was a woman at the Home Depot, and she worked at the Home Depot up in Staten Island. And she was wearing a hat, and the hat said, "America was never great." And she's wearing this hat at Home Depot. And now, if I'm Home Depot or any company that someone's working in a customer service position, I don't think I'm going to allow them to wear non-Home Depot gear. If you're going to wear a hat, wear a generic hat or a Home Depot hat. Provide a Home Depot hat. I don't think you should be able to wear things that are going to really tick people off, especially like that. Now, I'm all about freedom of speech, and, wear whatever you want to wear. That's 100% up to you. But when you're working for a company and their image is at stake, especially in a customer service position, we're not talking about somebody working in the back warehouse that nobody sees, nobody deals with the public, but this is a frontline person, customer service, and wearing a hat that says America was never great. So obviously you can expect that there was a lot of responses on that, and you wear a hat like that. I mean, that may be up there in Staten Island, that's all right, and people are like, hey, great hat. But you wear that hat here in Texas, you might, somebody's probably going to punch you in the face, and you might deserve it. You wear a hat like that, as far as I'm concerned. Free speech, love it. Absolutely wear whatever you want to wear, but I thought that was brutal. And, she probably doesn't even know what the hat means or what she was even trying to say. But, hey, let's talk about this Ranger Stadium. All right, when did we decide that we needed to have a covered baseball stadium? They're talking about the retractable roof on a new stadium, and first of all, they're thinking about this thing to open no later than 2021, 3 years before the current contract at Globe Life Park even expires. First of all, this stadium's not even very old. Now the Rangers have put about $50 million into it over the last couple of years, and there's been talk about them moving to Dallas, which I don't know that would ever happen. Honestly, I mean, yeah, a lot of things are going on in Dallas. It's building up. It's not what it used to be. It's more of a destination, but I don't know. 0.5-cent sales tax, and of course, we're going to be using the existing because they're paying off Cowboys early, and so very interesting. They're thinking about $1 billion. Of course, Cowboy Stadium went a little bit over $1 billion, although it was expected to be about a quarter of $1 billion under that, but it went over 1.25. So I'm thinking, I don't know. Now, of course, the media's jumped on board, and you're seeing everywhere, people just sweating and dying at the ballpark. We've got to have a retractable stadium. We've got to have air conditioning. I don't know about that. I just don't know. That's anyway. That's the latest with that. Why don't we roll on into some mortgage and real estate talk with Miss Terry Wagner from Supreme Lending Rockwall. Phone number 866-607-5667. The website, RockyMartin.com, Rocky with an IE. By the way, you want to talk to Terry, give us a shout, 787-KLIF, 787-KLIF. That's a 888 number. Terry, how are we doing?
Good morning. I'm doing good. How about you, Mike?
I'm good. What do you think about this stadium?
I think it's crazy.
Yeah.
Baseball is an outdoor sport. It's not meant to be played indoors, in my opinion. I've been to several Ranger games, and I've been out there sweating with the rest of them.
Right.
I think possibly we have some prima donnas.
Yes, it
that
is.
That are swaying opinions, and you just need to enjoy the sport for what it is.
That's right. I agree. We were talking earlier in the break, and Perry said he's like, just put a retractable roof on the current stadium.
Right.
Great. That's a great idea. I think just throw it on there. I
right.
mean, the stadium is in great shape. It really is.
It's a nice stadium. Why? I bigger and better.
Yeah. I mean, unless honestly the Rangers were seriously thinking about leaving, and I don't know that was the case. But. Of course, I like to see them stay in Arlington, of course, but I honestly don't think legitimately they were thinking about moving. But
yeah, it's kind of crazy.
So I think as the city of Arlington, maybe could play a little more hardball. Where else are they going to go? Are they going to go out to Frisco? I mean, Frisco, it's a thought. I mean, you already got Pizza Hut Park out there.
Right.
Of course, the Rough Riders are out there already. I don't know that it makes sense to go out there and be in the
Yeah,
same
that's
location where the Rough Riders are.
Right.
I mean, the only other spot they're going to go to is Dallas. They're not going to bounce it over to Fort Worth. Why they just stay in Arlington? Yeah. So who knows? But let's talk some mortgage talk and real estate talk.
Okay. Well, I do want to reiterate for folks to call in and ask us their questions. We can come up with stuff to bring to the listeners every week, but it's always good to know what their questions are as opposed to what we think their questions are. So give us a call.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, that number is 888-787-KLIF. And any question, mortgage, refinance, Texas cash out, even if you haven't bought in a while and you're thinking about selling and buying, you want to ask us about that, give us a shout.
Right. Okay, so today I thought that I would talk about this type of income that we can use. I've had it come up a couple of times lately, and it's called asset depletion. And basically what that is possibly for someone who's retired, that's the instances that it's come up with me, is they have a retirement income, Social Security or something along those lines, but that income isn't enough for what they want to purchase. So if they have a large amount of assets in an account, 401k, any type of annuity or anything like that, that maybe they don't, a lot of times annuities, you don't have it set up as a monthly payment. You just take out what you need when you need it.
Right.
Well, we can actually use that as income. So it's got to be obviously your own account. You've got to be the named party on the account. Yeah.
I know this guy and he has an account. And
yeah.
Can
exactly.
we use that, please?
You'd be surprised. So basically what we're able to do is take that dollar amount, take out what they're going to be using for their down payment, closing costs, reserves, whatever we need there. Then there's a factor that we have to use, minus 30%, because you have penalties and early would take out fees and other things.
Yep,
so we
absolutely.
take a 30% off of that.
Okay.
And what's left, we just divide it by 360. And that gives us a total monthly income that we can add as your income, qualifying income.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So we've had that come up a few times, and we're able to use that. Now you can't use that as income and an asset. So
dang.
Yeah, you can't do both. So you have to use it as one or the other. So and in
your situation, each situation might be different.
Right.
Which way to go?
Right. And we've talked about this before too. There's we've got the two different underwriting programs: desktop underwriter, loan prospector, and there's different requirements for whichever type we're going with. But yeah, we can use that as an asset.
Very nice. Very nice.
We can also use if you sell your business and you've got this large amount of money in the bank now, we can use that as income instead of just an asset.
Okay.
So there's lots of ways we can use that.
Well, and going back to the annuity, I think that's a great point on, folks that are, in retirement. Mm-hmm. A lot of times they think, I come across these clients from time to time, they think I'm not going to be able to buy anything. Maybe at some point they decided they downsized into a townhome. They did it early for retirement, but then they decide, I hate it. Mm-hmm. Am I stuck with it? I want to go back and get a house, but a small yard, little maintenance, but they want to have their own house again.
Right.
So that's great for them. And let's maybe talk a little bit more about that, and we'll get back into the rest of these categories as well. Folks, Inside Real Estate, Mike Kruizinga. Come on back in a few.
What's up?
Las Vegas!
The 2016 Billboard Music Awards, live Sunday, May 22nd at 8/7 Central on ABC.
Music to my ears.
Music's hottest superstars take the stage.
This is Pink.
PNCE.
I'm Shawn Mendes.
Shawn Mendes and the Go-Go's. The 2016 Billboard Music Awards, hosted by Ludacris and Sierra.
Yo, this is Ludacris.
Sunday, May 22nd at 8/7 Central on ABC.
Thank you so much, Billboard.
Sponsored by Dick Clark Productions.
Sellers, how would you like your home sold guaranteed? Buyers, how would you like your bid guaranteed to win? Well, it's real simple. Call Mike Kruizinga with Chris Arnold Premier Realty and ask about their guarantee programs for both buyers and sellers. No one beats Mike's professional listing and marketing services for all price ranges, including luxuries and ranches. And few have the knowledge and patience to take first-time buyers from renting to home ownership in a tough market. Visit DFWMetroplexRealestate.com and mention you heard this on the radio. And listen to Mike Sundays, 8 a.m. on KLIF for Inside Real Estate.
Attention professional sales reps, what does your future look like right now? Let me tell you what it might look like selling for some of the most recognizable radio stations in Dallas-Fort Worth. It's exciting, it's meeting new people, it's prospecting, it's creating a market plan for a customer and making it work. It's potentially very lucrative. It's taking your future into your own hands. Interested? Send me your resume. Richard.Lane@Cumulus.com. That's Richard.Lane@Cumulus.com. Cumulus is a drug-free workplace and an equal opportunity employer.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we're back. Website, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. Before the break, we were talking about some retirement income that we could use, for qualifications for a purchase. And, a lot of folks out there that are, in retirement think that they can't buy, or maybe they don't want to touch certain investments. And folks, as crazy as it is out there, I mean, we're 18 trillion or so in debt and counting. Stock market, we don't know when that thing's going to just go crashing again. All of our debt is owned by foreign entities, foreign nations. We're leveraged to the hilt in more ways than you can count. Real estate is, an asset that is backed by something physical. So maybe, you want to say, hey, you know what? I need to move some of my money out of various stocks and bonds that are in the stock market that, especially if you, hey, you got hit in the 08 crash, I got hit pretty hard myself. I mean, you want something that's physical, maybe if you hadn't invested in real estate before, maybe you should now. And there's different ways to do that. Even if they just want to become a lien holder, I have programs where I can, you don't have to manage the property yourself. You can just be the lien holder,
right,
and have foreclosure power,
right.
Or if you want to actually own it, manage it, but if you're in retirement, generally you don't want to. But let's talk about that a little bit more on that side.
Well, and just like in the couple of instances that I've had this come up lately, in that other lenders have told them you have to take the money out to put down money from that asset to get your debt ratio where I can qualify you using this small amount of Social Security income, we'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't have to do that because, like you said, money in the bank is, it's better.
Right.
You're safer. You've got that cushion. You've got that wiggle room for yourself. And we can use that as income instead of just the asset.
Right.
And I think that's huge. In someone who doesn't want to deplete all of their assets just to purchase a home. And in a lot of instances, they just decide not to buy.
Right, exactly. They end up staying on the sideline because they end up getting bad advice,
right,
from some random lender. And look, folks, there's a lot of lenders out there, a lot of great ones out there, but, there's a lot of young ones. They don't know a lot. And there's a lot from other states, that don't know what's going on here locally as well. So that's why you want to get with Terry. If you want to talk to us, by the way, we're at 888-787-KLIF, talking with Terry Wagner, Supreme Lending, Rockwall. All right, so let's move on down the line there.
Okay. Well, we can talk about another program. Call us if you have any questions on the asset depletion program. We're certainly here to help on that.
And did we hit all those assets? I know we just touched on the one with the business.
Well, we talked about that. Basically, you can use any employment-related asset in the forms of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, as long as we can use 70% of the value of that. Okay. I did want to kind of touch on what's not eligible to use. Okay, so if you've got these types of assets, we can't use them in the asset depletion program. Stock options, we can't use those. Lawsuits, if you've got money from a lawsuit, I can't use that. Lottery winnings, sale of real estate, inheritance, divorce proceeds, checking and savings accounts. Obviously, those are going to be eligible. Mm-hmm. But there's just some random ones that we can't use those. Lottery winnings, go figure. It's still an asset, but you can't use them.
Okay.
Okay.
You're gonna have to use your lottery winnings to pay cash.
That's right, and you can do that. You can use your lottery winnings as the down payment.
Yeah.
You just can't use it in the asset depletion program.
Gotcha.
Okay. We'll have to use other forms in that.
What if they have nothing else? What if that was their big win and they got nada? Pay cash, right?
Pay cash, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can still help you do that.
We'll come up with some other way to get them. You and I will come up with a better way for them to purchase a home. There's always a way.
True.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, folks, I mean, you don't have to deplete your investment accounts like a lot of people maybe have told you if you're thinking about,
right,
if you're in that retirement age and thinking about, hey, I want to invest in real estate. And look, I get it. Maybe you don't want to invest in rental properties because, once you get into retirement, you want to kind of have things more easy breezy and you don't want to deal with renters and headaches. Guess what? There are management companies for that. Guess what? If you didn't want to actually have the rental property itself, you can become a lien holder. You can own the property another company. Well, actually, a company can own the property for you, manage it for you. You can become the lien holder with full foreclosure power, and your full asset is backed by the property itself.
And you can
That's
use
an option
this
too.
You can use this asset depletion for not just your primary residency like you're talking about. You can use it for investment properties. So if you're wanting to, or a second home.
Mm-hmm. That little lake house.
Right.
Absolutely.
Your retirement place.
And if, you were planning in advance, you made that purchase of a downsize, prior to your retirement years, and you don't like it anymore, which I've run into this, and people are like, well, I'm stuck with it. I don't think I can get anything. I'm on Social Security and I have my assets, but I'm trying not to touch them, of course, 'cause nobody wants to touch the retirement accounts, whatever they are. Well, not necessarily the case. You may not be stuck. You can still move on to something else if you want. And depending on how long you've been in that property, I'm sure you've got some appreciation to move out with too.
Well, and I just encourage folks to, just call us with your questions. Even if it's not here on the radio, call us in the office. We are happy to answer any questions that you might have, even if it's not going to lead to me helping you with your mortgage. I want to give you the mortgage information that's going to best suit your needs, whether it be you buy a home now or you don't buy a home now. We want to be your mortgage company, but we want to be your mortgage company for life, even if that doesn't happen tomorrow.
Right.
So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, we understand, that, we give a lot of information out for free.
Right.
We work for free for
yes, we do.
a lot of the time, and we're hoping that, you folks understand that out there, and that you understand how much time we're giving to you, and that giving you good information, solid information, factual information, that you appreciate that, and that you, do some business with us, when you're ready to do some business in real estate and mortgage for sure.
Right.
You'll like us anyway. We're good folks.
And if someone else gives you a no, call us and see if we can give you a yes.
Yeah.
Because that happens a lot. We've got so many different programs that we can help folks with, and they've gotten several no's. And I've got one right now that I'm working that I worked with the customer, referred from a different real estate agent, and they switched to a different real estate agent, and then that agent referred them to a different lender. That lender said, oh, no, you can't buy a house, but we say you can.
Right.
So almost had that one taken out from under me, which happens sometimes. But if you get another no, give us a call, because it may be something we can help you with. And I love working with customers that, again, even if you can't buy a house right now, I'll get you to the place where you can buy in a short amount of time, if that's what we want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Folks, there's so many people out there there's so many loan officers out there that just, honestly, they don't know really what they're doing.
Right.
They'll do a brief, 2-3 minutes with you on the phone. Oh, no, you can't buy, call me in 6 months. I mean, it's like they don't even want to take your information. They don't want to help you. They don't want to get into your situation. Whereas, the folks over at Supreme Lending Rockwall, Terry, you're going to talk to Terry directly. She's going to help figure this out. And legitimately, if you cannot buy right now, she's going to get you to the point where you can, and generally that's only 3 to 6 months away.
Right.
At the very worst case, and these were the very extreme cases, it may take a year. But by and large, most folks you help in 3 to 6 months.
Right, exactly. There's something that we can do as long as you're on board with doing what we need to do. And sometimes it takes some cash, and sometimes it doesn't take cash. Sometimes it just takes 3 to 6 months for something to season on your credit report or something like that, where we can get you into purchasing a home. And purchasing is better than renting right now. The cost to rent is kind of ridiculous, and in most instances we can get you where you can purchase a home for less money or equal to the amount of money that you've had to use to rent somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're a homeowner.
Yeah, and folks, I had a lady call me this week. Actually, she texted me, and that was the first form of communication. She texted me, and I was like, okay. So I call her. She wanted a rent to own, and I was like, well, first of all, this rent to own that you want is 9%, it was 10% down. This was a $200,000 house. They wanted 10% down, and then the interest rate was 9%. And I said, look, why would you sign up for that? That's highway robbery.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
not to
is.
mention, more than likely, it's not going to work out, and you're going to lose your down payment anyway. Why not just legitimately buy the house? I mean, what's your situation? And she actually had a good situation. She's got a good income. She just has a lack of credit because she really hasn't opened any credit.
Right.
I mean, we're going to get her with you at some point, and you help her get her some credit established, and then she can go out and buy.
Sure. Sometimes it's easier than what we think.
She's been paying $1,600 in rent.
That's crazy.
I know.
That's crazy.
Why would you want to rent to own? Who even, but there's so many people that just don't know out there.
Right.
They just don't know. They're like, oh, rent to own, that's great, because I can rent, and then maybe if I want to own it later, I can. That ain't the way it works.
Right. Own now. There are too many programs that allow us the opportunity for you to get into a home right now.
Yeah. You got to give us a call, folks. Hey, folks, another great segment with Terry Wagner, Supreme Lending, Rockwall. Website is rockymartin.com, Rocky with an IE, rockymartin.com. I would just give her a shout direct, 866-607-5667, 866-607-5667. You're going to want to ask for Terry Wagner, and you'll get taken care of excellently, I assure you. Folks, inside real estate and news, hey, come on back in a few.
Living in the DFW area, expansive clay soil and extreme weather conditions play havoc on homes' foundation. But thankfully, you can turn to PermaPure Foundation Repair of Texas, who has successfully repaired over 20,000 properties and counting in the DFW area. With the most trusted, tried and true foundation repair methods, trust the professional staff of PermaPure Foundation Repair to take care of your property, and most repairs are backed by a lifetime transferable warranty. Mention Inside Real Estate Radio when calling PermaPure at 214-637-1444 or when booking online at permapure.com for your Inside Real Estate Radio discount.
Far from the shores of home, two African-American U.S. Army privates fight for their lives on the battlefronts of World War II. The first Black War correspondents fight to cover the perspective of the black soldier. The novel A Private War, it weaves all this and more into an epic World War II era story of friendship, conflict, religion, and redemption. Get a copy of Private War, a novel by Perry Cockrell today, now available on Amazon.com. And tune in regularly to Inside Real Estate Sundays, 8 to 9 a.m. to hear Perry Cockrell, attorney at law, as he provides expert analysis of the latest and greatest in legal news. With decades of experience, the Rocky Martin Supreme Lending Team will work to close your home loan in 30 days or less. With access to the most competitive interest rates, the most financing options, and the most access to down payment assistance programs, the Rocky Martin Team won't be beating service to you for all your mortgage needs, including purchase and refinance. Trust RockyMartin.com and his team for their reliable and fast loan process. Go to RockyMartin.com or call 972-772-1866 today.
For housing lender, NMLS ID number 211731, 6730 Horizon Road, Suite B, Heath, Texas 75032.
Now back to Inside Real Estate. Here's Mike the Realtor.
Hey, folks, we're back to the house. Inside Real Estate, Mike Kruizinga, InsideRealEstateRadio.com. InsideRealEstateRadio.com is the website. Hey, time for our legal segment. From time to time we get expert legal analysis of the latest and greatest in legal news out there. And so we have our resident expert, Perry Cockrell, here in studio live. His website, perryjcockrell.com, perryjcockrell.com. And, of course, also author of the recently released A Private War, which we discussed recently on the show. It's available on Amazon.com. Excellent book, A Private War. Perry, how's it going today?
Thank you, Mike. I'm glad to be back. Thanks for the plug on the book, too. I was not expecting that.
Well, yes. Well, it's a great accomplishment, and I really enjoyed our segment that we talked about on the show recently about the book, and hope everybody catches that segment, and I hope they catch the book. It's on Amazon.com, and but I know we got a lot to get into here, so we've got some cases that. Some things have totally changed. A couple shows back you were on talking about some things going on, and some of those things have changed. So give us the latest and greatest.
I will, and these are hot off the press, believe me. For those who were listening last month when I spoke about those home equity loan cases, one of them was an actual forgery where the wife had even transferred it during the divorce proceeding to her husband, and then the other one involved a wife that did not sign the note. Her husband had signed the property and secured the homestead, and he was awarded the property. Both of those suits, the wives, I refer to them as ex-wife regret cases, but they're symbolic of what they call non-compliant home equity loan cases where violations have occurred during the process of the loan, and one of them could be, let's say the loan was more than 3%. You cannot have a home equity loan that has that violation. The second one would be, what if the borrower gave a home equity loan on agricultural property? Texas Constitution says you cannot do that. Let's suppose you cannot have a second home equity loan on your property. The Constitution says you can only have one, but what if you had two? Now, what happened was, what is the rule in these kind of cases? The law says the borrower is to give notice to the lender to cure, and the lender has 6 ways to do that. In the old days, prior when the Constitution came out, the lender was at the mercy of the borrower and could not cure, and it could result that loan would be forfeited. Well, in 2003, amendments were given so that the lender could cure these, and there's 6 of them. So there's many ways to cure these kinds of what they call constitutional violations nowadays. But what was not answered, or at least what was not provided in the Texas Constitution, was what's the period of time for the borrower to give notice to the lender so that the lender can cure? And the Constitution provided 60 days notice for the lender to do that. In the prior constitutional amendment, there was no time. It was reasonable time. So this was changed. Now, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans is a federal appeals court. It doesn't decide federal law in some respects. It does decide federal law. It gives what they call a guess. And they do that if the state courts, such as the Supreme Court or the appellate courts, have not answered a question, or if it's not provided in the Texas Constitution. The Texas Constitution did not have what they call a statute of limitations for these, what are termed invalid loans that do not comply with the Texas Constitution. So the Fifth Circuit, when it gets questions like this, normally gives what they call certified questions to the Texas Supreme Court. And they ask the Texas Supreme Court to answer what is Texas law in these cases. And the Texas Supreme Court really does. And they do that quite often. And they do that in very difficult cases where they do not want to decide a substantive issue like that would have statewide importance. Now, for some reason, in this case called Priester that came out in 2013, they did not do that. They did a guess of what they thought Texas law would be, and they decided that when a loan doesn't comply with the Texas Constitution, the borrower has 4 years to notify the lender from the closing. And then if the borrower does not do that, the borrower loses that ability to invalidate that home equity loan. That was their decision. And it was based on terminology of whether a loan was voidable or void. And they believed, based on a Texas Supreme Court case, that loans that did not comply with the Texas Constitution were voidable. And therefore, since no action was taken within 4 years, the borrower could not file suit, like an action to quiet title, to invalidate that loan. Now, the Texas appellate courts, such as the Dallas, the Houston, Texarkana, began analyzing that decision, and they said that this is good analysis. We agree with that. And they began to adopt that rationale, even though it had not been adopted by the Texas Constitution, and the Supreme Court of Texas had not answered that question. And so it became kind of, I would say, settled law for at least the last 3 years. Now, for the lender, this was a good thing. And title insurance companies, this was a good thing. If this loan could be made and nothing happened for 4 years, this was like a clean bill of health. This loan is good. The borrower is not going to do anything anymore. Mm-hmm. And so lenders really like that. And
yes,
title insurance companies like that because it prevented.
They don't want anything coming back.
Particularly 4 years later. And some of these cases were 9 years. I had one that I litigated with 9 years later. They come back and say, well, you didn't give me the loan. I didn't sign this at the closing, or you didn't give me this document. Some of them are difficult. You have to go back and, well, anyway, the Texas Supreme Court said they were not persuaded by those types of arguments. But I'll have to say they called it right. in this case, and I do. However, it's a 6-3 decision. It has a dissent from Chief Justice Hecht. Chief Justice Hecht is substantial. What he says really goes, I think, for the most part. And he's on the dissent on this. But it comes down to the Constitution that says no lien on the homestead shall ever be valid unless it secures a debt described in this section. So that terminology, shall ever be valid. But remember what the Fifth Circuit said, that if it's non-compliant, then it's voidable. Okay, voidable is not the same as shall ever be valid, which is right out of the Texas Constitution. So
Okay.
the effect of the Fifth Circuit opinion meant that, for example, a 3% loan, if it's in excess of that, it would still be valid. The lady that didn't sign the note, she lost because she didn't file suit. The lady whose name was forged, she lost because she didn't file suit within 4 years, and she transferred the property. The two cases where agricultural property was taken, they lost because they didn't bring suit. And then the most recent one, a second lien home equity, clearly the Constitution says you can't do that. They lost because they didn't bring suit within 4 years. Now the Texas Supreme Court says that there is no statute of limitations on that the plain reading of the Constitution necessitates a finding that the liens securing these non-compliant home equity loans are not valid before the defect is cured. And so the court held that the Constitution does not support a holding that non-compliant home equity loans are merely voidable. So they've rejected this voidable, void type definition of how to, which is really in Texas common law. So the Fifth Circuit looked at Texas common law, and they looked at a Texas Supreme Court case that they thought suggested the voidable void rule. So the Texas Supreme Court said the Texas common law doesn't preempt this express Texas Constitution. So the court said that a non-compliant home equity loan is invalid until it is made valid. And otherwise, it would just permit lenders to ignore the Constitution and foreclose on unwitting borrowers who do not realize that their home equity loans violate the Texas Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And it would also mean that these loans are just validated because of the passage of time.
Right, the 4 year.
And then I think this was a good argument they pointed out in the majority, is that if you know that the Texas Constitution, when it comes to the home equity provision, it is a long, labyrinthine type provision is very difficult for the courts to maneuver. It is overly complicated, and it reads like a closing statement you would give to a closer when you're closing a loan. Normally, if you look at the Texas Constitution, it says that you can have a lien on a homestead if you want to buy it. It doesn't tell the closer how to close that loan.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a mechanic's lien on a homestead, but it doesn't define how to do that mechanic's lien, and it certainly doesn't put the terms and conditions of those mechanic's lien in the Texas Constitution. But when it comes to the home equity lending, the entire notice, the disclosures, the substantive rights, the terms and conditions, which have to be in there, such as the notices of the 12 days, the right to reject, the loan to value, there are labyrinthine. They are in the Texas Constitution. A Texas Constitution is not supposed to
have all that.
Read that like that.
Yeah, no.
That should be left to the legislature. All it needed to say is the Texas legislature is authorized, or home equity loans are authorized, or a loan secured by a home equity loan.
Yeah, and the details are up to,
Let the Texas legislature set out what the details were. Well, the only reason it's like that is because they'd been pushing for home equity lending for years. And so the only way to get the voters to approve it was to make sure that the lenders would be punished harshly if they didn't comply with the loans. So they made them so that the borrowers are not personally obligated, and they made it so that the loan could be forfeited as a punitive measure to the lender, because they were really concerned that lenders would go out get get liens on home equity loans on the properties, and then would foreclose them, and borrowers would be losing all their homesteads. That was the rationale. And I think we're way past that now. People know, people want a loan. People don't want to wait 12 days. They realize if you don't pay it back, you're going to lose your home.
Exactly.
So I think the whole Constitution needs to be amended, but I do think that the Supreme Court called it right on this one, because it was not fair for borrowers to lose their home or their ability to have that loan cured. At the same time, though, there has to be this 4-year issue. It needs to be addressed. But the Texas Constitution didn't place a statute of limitations in it. It didn't refer to the 4-year at all. So that might have meant that they didn't intend for non-compliant issues to be raised, to be foreclosed after 4 years. None of those terms and conditions say anything about that. They do not say that if you do not assert a violation within 4 years, you lose your rights, and therefore a loan on property which is not eligible, you lose that. None of that is in there. But I do hope.
So moving forward, then, if a loan is invalid, there's going to be no statute of limitations. A borrower can come back on that at any point. Let's say it's a 30-year loan. At any point, for any reason, if there's something of issue, if it's invalid, there's no statute of limitations at this point now.
For an action to quiet title in order to remove what they call an invalid lien. Now, what that means is the borrower can give that 60-day notice at any time during the term of the loan. There's no limitation on a borrower on that anymore. It's not 4 years, as the Fifth Circuit said. Now, it could be, if it's a 10-year loan, it could be in the 9th year. The lender has 60 days to cure. So the lender has an obligation to cure within 60 days, but the borrower does not have an obligation to provide notice within 4 years and look at the loan file and figure out if there's an issue. It's from the time of the closing. So, and I don't want to take a position on all that. Those things needed to be in the law itself when the law was passed or the Constitution was passed. And it's something that legislature has got to do something about the statute of limitations, not in this case, but in other cases where they're not accepting cases under some types of 2-year or 4-year. And in some cases, in one case, they denied hearing a limitation case last month where the party that sued didn't know who harmed them. They weren't even damaged yet until 6 years down the road. The law and the rules of procedure do not say, what do you do in this case? The Texas Supreme Court says, well, you have to sue within 2 years of the injury. You have to sue even if you don't know who injured you. And you don't even if you haven't even been damaged yet.
Which is, and how is that possible?
It's not under the home equity. That's under a different other types of, like, breach of fiduciary duty, breach of contract, things like.
I mean, I can kind of understand this. I mean, it's on the borrower side. I mean, look, the closing packets to purchase a home and to refinance for a home equity loan, I mean, they're a couple inches thick. So, I mean, the average borrower, they just sign it all, because if they don't sign it all, they don't get the house or they don't get the home equity loan. It's not like you can really go and say, I'm not going to sign this, or, I suppose you can bring in an attorney and maybe do some additional work, but that's going to take a while to get through it and get the loan. So on the borrower side, I can kind of understand that you may not know something until 5 or 10 years down the line, but to give the lender only 60 days to cure, that's certainly putting them in a tight spot. Of course, they wrote all the paperwork anyway.
And it sets out
they should know what it says.
Cure. They set out the way to cure, and the way, if you can't cure, then there's this last option. You can offer to refinance the loan and pay $1,000, and that's going to be a segue into the next segment. But I also point out, let me tell you, one of these agricultural loans, the borrower went in there. In that case, she forged her husband's name to his will when she's in the hospital. He dies. She then probates his will, conveys the property to herself, takes out a home equity loan, and says that it's not agricultural, and offers to remove the agricultural designation. And so they go through the closing on the express purpose of doing that. Except they somehow didn't get it actually done with the appraisal district, so it's still designated agriculture at the time of the loan. Now she takes bankruptcy, says, oh, it's not agricultural anymore, it's homestead. And the court agrees with her and forfeits that loan and says, well, you should have known it was designated as agriculture at the time of the loan. Yes, it was, but that's because she was converting it to exempt and said she signed an affidavit that said that it was not. Okay, the court says, well, it's too bad you knew it was. So the question was, it was designated at the time. That's a clear fraud case.
Right.
Okay. That's where I side with the lenders and think this is not right. Borrowers shouldn't come back, change their mind. That's the kind of thing. It's got to be changed. It's got to work fair on both sides.
Both sides,
here.
I agree. Absolutely.
That was totally unfair. That's a bad. Never mind. I won't comment on that decision. But let me move into the next one. What happened?
And we're running a little short on time here too. We got about a minute and a half.
1 minute. What happens if? Let's give you this. The loan's paid off under the Constitution. You're supposed to deliver the lend back, the note back. Deliver the lend back to the borrower. What happens if the note's paid off completely and then the lend is not delivered back to the borrower, but the lend is filed of record? The Constitution says you have to deliver that loan, that lend, release of lend back to the borrower. What happens if the lender does not? Well, in the next case Supreme Court issued was a certified question from the Fifth Circuit. The borrower paid the note off, but the lender filed a release of lend of record. But under the Texas Constitution, they're supposed to provide a copy of that note and that release of lend to the borrower. They did not within 60 days. They said nothing. They did nothing. Borrower files suit to say, oh, give me all my money back. If you forfeited, it's because you didn't deliver the loan back. This is the danger of
within
these.
60 days.
And that's the problem. What happens if you don't cure? What if you cure on the 61st day? Well, anyway,
I want all $500,000 I paid to you over 30 years
that's
back.
Exactly
right
what they were trying
now.
to do.
Plus,
Well,
I was damaged.
The court said no. The court said no. That's the forfeiture remedy depends on whether you're foreclosing and whether you fail to comply with the 6 corrective measures. Here, the loan's already paid off. Paying $1,000 and offering to refinance a loan that's paid off makes no sense. So none of the curative measures apply. It doesn't apply post-origination. It applies origination. So therefore, they said no to that.
Wow.
So forfeiture is not necessarily a
folks. Hey, and we've got so much more to talk to you about on this for sure. Folks, come on back next week, 8 to 9, Inside Real Estate. We've been talking to Perry Cockrell. Hey, we'll be seeing you next week. Have a good one.